Useful information for starting amateur radio satellite operations. Information presented at present is for low Earth orbit LEO FM satellites. Basic setup you need is a dual band directional antenna covering VHF and UHF and two handheld radios. Another option is to connect a full duplex handheld radio with a duplexer to two antennas. Limited success is also possible by using vertical antennas. I am using an omnidirectional CP22E VHF antenna for both uplink and downlink along with a dual band base station. Recommended antenna is a dual band VHF UHF antenna, preferably a cross Yagi with circular polarization. Directional antennas need rotation in the direction of satellite movement in both azimuth and elevation. Uplink is the frequency on which you transmit to the satellite. Downlink is the frequency which you receive from the satellite. Satellite transponder receives on your uplink frequency and retransmits the received signal on the downlink. Various downloadable apps are available which give real-time tracking of the satellites like Heavens Above. While working outdoors, if the antenna is very light, it can be used as a handheld antenna and rotated. But as it could lead to hand fatigue, it is better to use a tripod with an arrangement for rotation in azimuth and elevation. For working from inside the shack, you need directional antennas with an antenna rotator which can move the antenna in both azimuth and elevation with a controller. When the satellite appears above the horizon, it starts moving towards you. The time at which it appears above the horizon is called acquisition of signal, AOS. So the downlink frequency is higher than the real frequency of the downlink. It comes down gradually as it reaches the time of closest approach, TCA. After that, the satellite is moving away from you and the frequency falls below the real frequency of the downlink. The time at which the satellite disappears below the horizon is called as loss of signal, LOS. High-end radios have automatic Doppler tracking facility. I use the Argentinian AMSAT webpage for Doppler tracking manually as I am working from within the shack using a base station. I keep the website on a mobile phone and follow the Doppler correction. An alternate page is available from LU7ABF. Correction for uplink is different and moves upwards from below the real frequency from AOS to LOS. Those using handheld radios generally program 3 or 4 steps above and below the nominal frequency for both uplink and downlink and change them as the path progresses from AOS through TCA to LOS. Here is the frequency chart of some FM satellites, both uplink and downlink, and CTCSS tone for uplink when needed. SO50 has a 10-minute timer which has to be activated by sending a 2-second carrier with a CTCSS tone of 74.4 Hz. Further access is with 67 Hz tone. Programming a default tone of 67 Hz for all satellites will do no harm except for the satellites with a different tone requirement. Tone should not be programmed for the downlink frequency. It is only for the uplink. Squelch should be kept fully open for the downlink and the hissing sound should be there. When the satellite signal is being acquired by the radio, the hissing sound of the open squelch suddenly stops and you can listen to the station call sign. Communication through satellites is limited to call signs, grid square and signal report. Only this way can more number of operators utilize the limited time available during a given pass of a LEO satellite, which is usually less than 10 minutes. Prolonged CQ calls are to be avoided. Short calls followed by a good listening period is a must. Otherwise, those hearing your CQ calls will not be able to respond. Though overhead passes are good for beginners, low angle passes are needed for working DX. That needs a high gain directional antenna and meticulous Doppler tracking. When the number of elements on Yagi antenna is increased, gain increases, but beam width decreases. Low beam width, high gain antenna will be more difficult to point in the direction of satellite movement, especially for a beginner. International Space Station ARISS, which is one of the easiest to work because of the 5 watt output of the downlink, is usually on throughout except during scheduled maintenance period. Current status of ISS ham radio station's webpage announces the status and scheduled maintenance timings. ARISS amateur radio on the ISS Twitter page is useful to contact the ground team. Schedules of educational contacts and transponder on-off timings are also posted on Twitter. ARISS beacon announces its call sign periodically on CW. TEVEL series of satellites are activated depending on how their footprints overlap. Usually only 1 or 2 satellites are activated at a time, though occasionally 3 may be activated at a time. Twitter page of David 4x1DG gives the information on a regular basis. Activation of each satellite is usually for a period of 72 hours. There is a web page from DF2ET which gives live satellite timer status for TEVEL series and UASQ SAT that gives a countdown timer for the active satellites in the TEVEL series. AO91 was a favorite of many FM bird operators in the past. The battery status is currently low and it may work during daylight passes. Female synthesized voice announces Fox 1D beacon. Lilac Sat-2 is active for 24 hours at a time starting around 2200 UTC on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Activation time of PO101 can be obtained from the Twitter page Divata2PH. Twitter page of UVSQ SAT and their project page are also useful to know about it. AMSAT live Oscar satellite status page is useful to know the recent status of the satellites. All those who hear satellites are encouraged to submit data on this page. If the satellite has not been reported active recently, there is obviously no point in wasting time to access it. FM satellite frequency summary page lists a few more satellites, some of which are yet to be installed and activated, and some of which are to be launched as well. It can be seen that some of them have linear transponders in addition to FM transponders. SatMatch is a site which helps you to know whether there are overlapping passes for satellites between your grid and grid of another radio amateur. Minimum data input needed for the site are the satellite name, western grid and the eastern grid. It gives you the overlapping passes and period of overlap between the two grids in the coming 24 hours. There is also provision for checking the previous day's passes and future passes as well.